In the last two movies, we split our database into a front end and a back end and gave each component a separate password in order to control access to our information. One of the main advantages to splitting a database is that each end user can receive a customized front end that is tailor-made for the tasks that they need to accomplish. Let me show you how we can easily set this up. Let's suppose we want to have our product development team be able to add new products to our database, but not have access to any customer or order information. Once again, because the database is split and storing absolute file paths, I can't distribute a starting exercise file for this movie. So you'll need to continue with the files you created in the last two movies. So let's go ahead and start creating a database specific to our product team. Right now I've got the Kinetico database open. This is the front-end file that we've been working with. What I want to do is make a duplicate of this file and then modify it so that it's tailor-made for our product development team. So I'm going to go ahead and close the database. And inside the exercise 4 folder, I'm going to find the file we were working with, Kinetico splitting. This is the front end. Let's go ahead and make a copy of this. I'll just press Control-C on the keyboard and then Control-V to make a copy. And I'll rename it to Kinetico products. Now if I open up this file, we'll see that it functions just like the other file. Enter the database password. This is the database password that we set in the previous movie, which was front, F-R-O-N-T. Let's go ahead and say OK. Now let me make a quick change so we can keep track of which database file that we're in. I'm going to go over to the File tab and go down to Options. Then I'm going to go to Current Database, and I'm going to change the application title that appears up here at the top of the screen. I'm going to change it from Kinetico Database to Kinetico Products. Now we can keep track of which database we're actually in. Let's go ahead and say OK. We get a warning message saying that we must close and reopen the database file for the specified option to take effect. But if we take a look at the top of the screen, we can see that it already took effect. So this warning technically isn't true. Let's go ahead and just say OK to that. Next, I want to set a customized password that's specific to just our products database, that's different from the front end of the regular database. To do that, we need to open this up in Exclusive View again. So once again, I'll go to the File tab and close. Then we'll go to the File tab. We'll go to Open Other Files. We'll say Computer. We'll browse out to our desktop. In our exercise folder, Chapter 4, I'll find the Kinetico products database here. We'll click on the downward pointing arrow on the Open button and choose Open Exclusive. It's going to ask me for the database password, which is still front, and that opens up our products database. Now let's go ahead and remove the password. We'll go to File, Decrypt Database. It's going to ask us for the password again, which is still front, and we'll say OK. Now we can set a new password that's specific to this products database. We'll go to File, Encrypt with Password. This time the new password is going to be products, and I'll verify it, P-R-O-D-U-C-T-S, and we'll say OK. It's going to give me that same warning we saw before, and I'll just say OK to that. Now our products database has a separate password from the other two components, the standard front end and the back end file. Now let's go ahead and modify the products database so that it's specific to our products team. First, I'm going to delete all the tables that they don't need to have access to. I'm going to choose Customers. I'm going to shift-click Employees, Orders, and States. And actually, I'll Control-click to deselect Products. I'll click on Customers, and I'll Control-click the other tables that I want to remove. So everything except for the products table. I'll right-click and say Delete. Go ahead and say yes to actually delete these links from the database. That'll just leave my products table. Let's delete some other objects. I'm going to delete the Add Customer form. Yes. And I'm going to delete the Orders by State report. And we'll say yes to that. So that'll leave me with just a couple of objects. I've got the main menu still. I've got the splash screen. I've got the options window, which is what happens when we press this tool icon down here. And then I also have this reports menu, which I'm going to customize and turn into a products table. Let's go ahead and make that change. I'm going to right-click on the main menu reports and go into Design View. Let's go ahead and make some changes to make this a new products table. I'm going to double-click on this top title, and instead of report menu, I'm going to type in products. Go ahead and press Enter to make that change. And let's go ahead and delete all of these buttons and objects here. I'm just going to shift-click to select all of these and press Delete. I'll also go ahead and delete this graphic. That just leaves me with a standard customized title up here at the top and our Return to Main Menu button. Now let's make this a data entry form so we can enter in new products. To do that, I'm going to make sure that my property sheet is open, and if it's not, you can use this button on the ribbon. I'll make sure that my properties are set to the form properties using this drop down here, and I'm going to go to the Data tab. Here I'm going to set a record source, or I'm going to connect this to my products table. Using the drop down list, I'll just choose Products. Now let's add some fields to our form. I'll go over here and choose Add Existing Fields. I'll click on the product ID, and then shift-click on Target Personal, and drag and drop these into my products form. That'll add all the fields from the products table into this form. Next, let's rearrange things a little bit. I'm going to deselect everything and select all of these up here to just below footprint. I'll drag the bottom half over here to the right, and then I'll drag a box around everything and move them down slightly to about there. Let's go ahead and move the bottom of the form up to the top to about the 3-inch mark here. And I'm going to make this a split form so that I can see the products information up here at the top where we can enter in the data, but then I'll see a table view down in the bottom half. To do that, I'll switch back over to the property sheet. We'll change the properties of the form here. And on the Format tab, the default view property, I'm going to change from single form to split form. Down here at the bottom of the property sheet, still in the Format tab, we have some additional properties that deal specifically with the split form. I'm going to leave the split form size set to auto. I'm going to put the data sheet on the bottom. I'm going to leave the split form splitter bar set to yes, but I'm going to go to split form data sheet and change it from allow edits to read only. That'll make the table that appears at the bottom of the screen read only. We can't make any changes there. If we want to make changes, we'll have to use the form elements up here on the top. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at what my products form looks like. I'll switch my view, and we can see we have a split form here. I can move this bar up if I'd like, and I can see the different products that we have. If I try and click on them to edit them though, it won't let me make any changes. If I want to make a change, I'll have to do it up here in the top half of the form. Let's go ahead and add a few buttons over here to the products form so we can navigate through our records. I'll switch back into Design View, and we're going to add our buttons using the wizard. So I'm going to choose the button control over here in the Design tab, and I'll click down here, and I'm going to go to Record Navigation and choose Go to Previous. Let's go ahead and say Next and Finish. Let's add a couple more. I'll go to the button again, drop it down here. Record Navigation, I'll say Go to Next Record, and we'll say Finish. We'll add another one. I'll click again. This time I'll go to Record Operations and say Delete a Record and Finish. And one more button, click. Record Operations, this time we'll save a record and say Finish. Let's actually add one more for adding a new record. I'll click on the button one more time. That'll start the wizard. Record Operations, and we'll choose the Add New Record and say Finish. Now let's rearrange these so they're all aligned. I'll just push them up here into the top left corner and space them out just a little bit. And here I'm just clicking to select the button and then dragging on the very edge or in the yellow bar. Okay, so there's the buttons for my products table. Let's go ahead and check it out in Form View one more time. And everything is looking pretty good. I can cycle through my records here. If I wanted to add a new record, I'd press this button here. If I wanted to save a record or delete a record, I have buttons to do that as well. So let's go ahead and return to the main menu. It's going to prompt me to save the changes, and I'll say yes. And now I just want to rename this object over here in my forms. I'll right-click on it and say Rename, and we'll change it from Main Menu Reports to Main Menu Products. The last thing I need to do to customize my products database is to update this main menu screen. So let's modify that. I'll right-click on Main Menu and choose Design View. Now we don't have any options to add a customer anymore, so I'll get rid of this button. I'll get rid of these two buttons as well. They actually don't do anything. And I'll change this Reports button to Products. We'll go ahead and modify the macro that this button triggers. I'll go to the Event tab. The onClick event has an embedded macro, which I'll say Build. And here, the embedded macro closes one window, the main menu, and then opens up a form named Main Menu Products. And we can see, because we reused the Main Menu Reports and then renamed it, that actually translated in here to the macro. So we actually don't need to make any changes. So let's go ahead and close this macro, and we'll leave it like this. I'll switch back into Form View, and we can test it out. I'll press Products. It's going to ask me to save the main menu because it's closing, so I'll say yes. And now it takes me into my product screen where I can work with my products. When I get done, I'll return to the main menu, and when I'm done, I'll press the Exit Database. So let's go ahead and test out this entire workflow. Let's press Exit Database, and that'll take me back out to the Windows desktop. Now I'm going to enter in a new product. So in order to do that, I'll go to the Kinetico Products Database. Now I have to have authorization to do that, so I need to know the password for this file, which is products. We'll say OK. That'll open up the database. You'll see that I don't have any access to customer information or orders or anything like that. All I can work with are the products. I'll click on Products here. We'll go and press Add a New Record, and let's add in a new product to our database. The product that I want to enter is a new grid tie inverter. Currently, our maximum capacity inverter is at 20,000 watts. Let's go ahead and enter a new one that'll handle 25,000 watts. Here, I'll make the product ID KI25K. The category is going to be grid tie inverter. And let me just make this a little bit wider to make sure I'm staying consistent. It actually should be inverters, plural. So we'll type in inverters. The name is going to be K-invert25K, and the power will be 25,000 watts. I'll go ahead and leave the rest of these blank. We can get the idea here. Let's go ahead and press the Save button here, and I'll return to the main menu. Now I'm done entering in my products. Let's see how that affects every other user of this database system. I'll press Exit Database. Let's go ahead and see what this looks like from the main database, the one that's called Splitting. This is the front end that we originally started with. I'll double click on that to open it. This one has a separate password, which is front. I'll go ahead and say OK. Now in the main front end, I have access to all of the tables and forms, but because they're sharing a common backend file, any changes that were made in the products front end should appear here. So let's go ahead and take a look at this products table to see if we can see them from the front end. I'll double click on it to open it, and we'll scroll down to the bottom, and we can take a look and see if we can find our 25,000 watt inverter. And there it is, KI25K, the 25,000 watt inverter that we just entered from the other section. So now we have a completed workflow for our product development team. By keeping a master database file for development work, it becomes easy to update customized user databases. You can either make a copy and remove the content that is unnecessary, as we did here, or by going into the user's database and re-importing the updated components. Either way, keeping related workflows separated into databases focused on specific user roles helps control access to the underlying data tables.